It's now time to welcome in our friend from NBC Sports. His Football Morning in America column is must read. There's so much to talk about with Peter King. I welcome Peter into the Rich Eisen Show here, exclusively now on Peacock. How are you, Peter?
Good morning out west, Rich Eisen. Good afternoon back east.
Yeah, you bet. So I will give you the floor on somebody who's got his ear to the ground, finger on the pulse, every other way to put it. What is the story in the NFL this very morning with 2 games left in Week 4, Peter King? What is it?
Oh, I suppose, the antennae are up about COVID and about how serious it could, what it could mean with the, to play a full season, to play an on-time season. I think that's probably, even though, there's one really good game tonight and there's one really good other team playing tonight, and it certainly will be, a good football night. I just think, Rich, I got up this morning very early, for me anyway, on Monday, because I wanted to find out what, if anything, what was going on with the Patriots. And when I woke up and followed them during the morning and was making a couple of calls about it, I look on Twitter and I see on WBZ in Boston, it's like the white Ford Bronco chase.
Yeah, I know.
You've got a helicopter over the Patriots' 5-team buses going to Logan Airport. It's just, I don't mean to say what have we come to in this country that we're covering second by second a team going to the airport to make sure a football game gets played tonight, but there's a little bit of weirdness to it all.
Well, I mean, obviously 2020 is off the rails, as we know, Peter. But I guess, again, there is no greater escape in our country than National Football League football when fantasy leagues are up and running for casual sports fans and so on and so forth. When you say the antennae are up, good news is that the Titans have tested negative for the first time throughout the organization today. Right. Do we know what happened there and what's been gleaned from it to potentially avoid another such situation happening? Because it appears that the bullet was dodged with the Titans crossing streams with the Vikings on that field on Sunday.
Yeah.
Is there anything that's been gleaned about what happened there, what can be done here?
It's interesting you mention that, Rich. I think the good news for the NFL, I think, is that, and I was explaining this to a member of the, I'll just say I was explaining it to someone who's going to be on the field tonight in Kansas City, who told me that there are a lot of worried employees in his building about COVID and the spread of COVID. And I said, well, there's one thing I would say is, and obviously this is anecdotal, but if you're worried about football spreading COVID-19. And I'm not saying that it doesn't, but when the Tennessee Titans played Minnesota, wouldn't you think that some members of the Minnesota Vikings, either team or staff or something, would have been infected if a football game on the field were a super spreader event? And I'm not saying that it isn't. It could be. But to me, I think one of the issues that everybody was worried about is that once guys get their hands on each other and sweat on each other and are in close proximity, COVID can spread. But it didn't, at least in that particular case. Said that, I mean, the Tennessee Titans are obviously being investigated by both the league and the NFLPA. And again, I'm not there. I don't know what happened. I read yesterday what Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero reported, that there are some concerns about maybe some lax protocols, inside the Titans. So we'll see if that, comes to fruition, or see if that's accurate. But whatever it is, I think the one thing, I talked to Kevin Stefanski last night, and one of the things he told me, he obviously was, I'm not saying jovial, he's not a particularly jovial guy, but he obviously was happy to relay some stories from the game and everything. He got dead serious when I asked him about COVID and about their protocols and all that other stuff. And he said, we're taking it incredibly seriously, and because he said, we want to play football. And I think that is a great message to be learned from what happened in Tennessee. And now, obviously, the Titans are going to have 2 or 3 days at least with all negative tests to be able to get back in their building and to be assured that they're going to be able to play a football game, this weekend against Buffalo.
Peter King here on the Rich Eisen Show. So you did speak to Kevin Stefanski, the coach of the Cleveland Browns, who have now won 3 in a row for the first time in forever, to use the Frozen song phrase right there. So how real are the Browns, do you think, Peter?
Well, I hesitate in jumping on any Browns bandwagon because every time you do that, at least in my lifetime, you end up getting slapped in the face. So, but I think there's a couple of different things now. Okay, they have a truly dominant defensive player in Myles Garrett. I mean, I would just say that there's very little question that Aaron Donald is the best defensive player in football and probably the best player in football. But if that's the case, and there's no shame in saying that Myles Garrett is number 2, and I believe he is. 3 consecutive games now with a strip sack. He's so hard to block. So, there's an unstoppable force on defense. And on offense, even with the injury now to Nick Chubb, which apparently is going to keep him out for some time, even with the injury to Nick Chubb, I think that they have an excellent – one of the differences with Cleveland now, Rich, is that they have some depth on their depth chart. I don't know if you watched much of the game yesterday, but I watched almost every snap of that game. And this guy, Dearness Johnson, is a heck of a running back.
He sure is.
He's from the same town as Edger and James in Florida, Immokalee, Florida. And, man, he is hard to bring down, and he's quick. And, I think that they have a lot of things to make it difficult to play against, in my opinion.
Which is, again, a great guarded way to say the Browns may be for real. I was just joking about the first time in forever.
So, but
by the way, I looked it up. They did win 3 in a row last year at some point, and now here they go visit Indianapolis, which just put the absolute bang thing on Nick Foles yesterday. What do the Bears do right now, Peter? What's going on there?
I think we all thought the Bears were not quite as good as 3-0. Anybody who would watch them play, obviously thought they weren't 3-0, a 3-0 caliber team. But having said that, they've got a good defense and an occasionally high-powered offense, occasionally. And I'd stick with Foles, let him play for a month, and then let's see where you are. And if he's not doing it, and if he is as ineffective as he was yesterday, then you have to decide whether you're giving Mitchell Trubisky one last chance.
Football Morning in America columnist Peter King here on the Rich Eisen Show. What else did you glean overnight that you can tell my viewership, listenership right here? Just open the floor up to you about what you learned last night or today.
couple of teams that I think are entering a bit of a twilight zone. One of them is Houston. There's no question that even though Bill O'Brien has won 4 division titles in 6 years, that the fans certainly are restless in Houston, and I think that if there were full crowds at games, I think yesterday the crowd would have treated the Texans and particularly Bill O'Brien, very disrespectfully. Look, we know what happened in Houston. Bill O'Brien felt he absolutely positively needed a left tackle, and so then he had to overpay for Laramie Tunsil. And he felt this year like there's no way I'm going to be able to re-sign because I'm not paying him $23 million a year, DeAndre Hopkins. So he did what he thought. He made what he thought was the best deal he could make for DeAndre Hopkins. I don't really have nearly as much of a problem, by the way, with the Tunsil trade because left tackles are so hard to find. I have a problem with not scouring every team in the league. Now, it could be that he or Jack Easterby made a phone call to every team about DeAndre Johnson. I don't know that, but they really didn't get very much for him. And so that's going to have to be Cal McNair's going to have to decide whether O'Brien, Easterby, one or both is going to be in trouble at the end of the year. The one other thing I think that sort of sticks out after yesterday, in terms of a game focus, Rich, this Joe Burrow,
yeah,
he's not afraid of anything.
Yeah,
he hangs in there.
Yeah,
and look, you're not going to Canton by beating the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2020, but Joe Burrow has such good feel, such good presence. I mean, just imagine right now, you're either a Bengals fan or a Chargers fan, and those aren't the two biggest fan bases in the United States, but you're pretty good. You're in pretty good shape at quarterback right now for the future. You drafted very well at 1 and 6, in the draft last April.
So I guess, again, you were so spot on about Burrow. He's so fun to watch. He then tweets out winning is fun, which is fun. I mean, everything about him is fun. And you see how he is in command in a way that you wouldn't expect in maybe a rookie 4 games in. And Justin Herbert dropped a 60-yard dime on the Bucs defense with people in his grill yesterday. And he has definitely acquitted himself very well, almost beat the defending world champs when he found out at the coin toss. So it begs that he was going to start. So it begs the question, as the Dolphins settled for field goal after field goal yesterday, and I understand that he was sick, thank goodness not due to COVID throughout the last week. When do you think we might see Tua time in Miami, with all ultimate respect to Ryan Fitzpatrick, who is playing so well and has the locker room at his, lifting him up literally, figuratively. But when do you think Tua time might hit in Miami?
I don't think it's going to be long, Rich, but I think that Brian Flores is one of those coaches who very much understands that this season is mostly about the future for the Miami Dolphins. And the most important thing is you come out of 2020 able to contend on opening day 2021 for an AFC championship. That's what this year is about. And at least in my opinion, he's got to feel now, at least right now, deep down, that Ryan Fitzpatrick is the guy who's going to give him the best chance, let's say this week, to win in San Francisco. Now, is that fair? Is it right? I don't know. But I don't think it'll be long, this week, next week, the week after, that he makes the change. Fitzpatrick knows he's a fatalist. He told me on my podcast last week that basically, I mean, in these exact words, I know that I'm keeping the seat warm for him.
Right.
So you're not going to have any issue with Ryan Fitzpatrick grousing when he's called into the office and told by Brian Flores, hey, we're playing the kid.
Peter King here. A few more minutes left with the Football Morning in America columnist, Football Night in America contributor, and NBC Sports colleague here on the Rich Eisen Show. Interesting how you mentioned earlier, Peter, that it might make things more difficult for Bill O'Brien if there were fans in the stands. Usually when coaches get got midseason, it's because ownership hears the fans in the stands, looks around and sees fewer fans in the stands, and in order to, I guess, cauterize that, fires the coach. As we know, there are no fans in the stands except in a few spots, and even when they are there, they're not filling up a stadium. I'm just wondering if that might actually prevent coaches from getting got mid-season, like the Jets, who have never fired a coach in the middle of the season.
That's a great question. It allows an owner to be more patient. You know, if you're not getting the chance, CHANTS,
right,
in the stadium during the game, that's one less reason to fire a guy you really, really like. And, you know, so, look, I don't know what's going to happen. You know, I think you and I both probably get the feeling that we certainly get the feeling that Adam Gase is gone, and we get the feeling that Dan Quinn, unless they have an absolute miracle in Atlanta, that he's going to be gone. And then you start to get to the next level. You know, then you start to think about Bill O'Brien. And you know, when you think about Bill O'Brien, you think about Matt Patricia, you know, you think basically that over the last 3 months of this season, they need to do pretty much a 180 from where they are right now. And I think those are the four coaches that kind of lead the parade of guys who are going to be in the most trouble at the end of the year. And then you just wonder, in each particular case, will there be a full house cleaning? Now, I doubt that there's going to be a full house cleaning with the Jets, nor do I think there should be. I think that Joe Douglas should be giving a full, fair chance to rebuild this team. I know from talking to people around the league and from knowing general managers that this is a highly, highly respected guy who, by the way, has, you know, at the end of this year is going to have 4 years and about $12 or $13 million left on his contract. So be careful what you wish for in saying that, you know, he should be gone. But I do think that in all these other places that there's a very good chance the GM is in trouble too.
And then, you know, Matt Patricia, there's a lot of people today, certainly in Detroit, who took issue with him saying after they blew another game in which they led by double digits, taking on a Saints team that, again, I mean, you want to talk about Sean Payton said he was proud of his team, and he damn well should be. I mean, where they didn't, you know, they thought, do we have COVID or do we not? And then they had to go to sleep and sleep on that and then wake up and play a game on the road. And that might be the reason why they fell down by 2 touchdowns. But Breeze is winging it around. I just want to place the Saints aside. I'm sure you, again, heard the comment that Matt Patricia said that he didn't have a lot to work with when he got there, and a lot of people took offense to that, especially when they thought that his predecessor should never have been fired, and Jim Caldwell. I'll give you the floor on that subject matter, Peter.
I mean, any coach who has 3 full seasons, which Matt Patricia is going to have, you know, barring them being 1-13 or something, you know, in December. Any coach who has 3 full seasons with a general manager who chose him and who he is, by all, you know, by all people who are close to both guys, a GM that he likes and he respects and who is building the team his way. You cannot expect to have more than 3 years in today's NFL. And you can't expect to be 4 games into your third year and to have won 10 games, taken over a team that went 9-7, and to have any empathy / sympathy or anybody agreeing with you. Oh my God, we really needed to do a lot of surgery when we took over here. Well, maybe you did, and maybe there are things the public doesn't know. But you know what? When you are 10-25-1 in 3 years, no one is going to have any sympathy for you or with you over your state at that moment. And so to me, Rich, I think it was a bad idea to say that, and not only a bad idea, but he said it at an inopportune time after his team blew a double-digit lead again, and lost to a good team, but lost a game that they were up 14-0. And at some point, Matt Patricia is going to have to realize that when you get 3 years in the NFL, 3 full off seasons and 3 seasons, okay, that is how coaches are judged these days, if they're fortunate. Some coaches only get 1. Ask Steve Wilkes how fortunate he feels after getting blown out in Arizona by, after 1 year. Ask the slew of coaches who get blown out after 2 years. 3 years maybe is not enough time not the time that you want, but in the NFL these days, that is what is defined as patience, a 3-year opportunity to turn a team around. And you really shouldn't be saying anything when in the middle of or a month into your third year, you're 10-25-1 and 1-3 this year.
Peter King of NBC Sports, NFL Insider. Just a couple more minutes left with you. I'll ask you the million-dollar question of the day is, what do the Cowboys do from here? I know that you could sit here and say, just play better, execute better, whatever, but it certainly...
I forget who said it. It might have been Damian Woody. I forget who said it. But somebody said last night on Twitter that it isn't enough to simply collect great pass rushers. Okay, if you do it myopically and don't worry about your up-the-middle defense, it's like building a great baseball team with a shortstop, second baseman, and center fielder who are lousy fielders. It's obvious that the running game, the opposing running game, has killed the Dallas Cowboys in many instances. I mean, no defensive player worth his salt can look at that tape yesterday and, giving up 300 and some yards rushing. That's like if a manager left a pitcher in to absorb an 11-run beating through 4 innings. And, look, if Mike McCarthy and Mike Nolan could take anybody out and put anybody in there yesterday, they certainly would have. I think the bigger question now, Rich, is, could Mike Nolan be in trouble? It may have to be something, symbolically that the Cowboys do. I don't support doing something like that, but then again, I'm not there. I'm not inside the walls. You have to figure out right now, urgently, the building's on fire, and you got to do something to put the fire out.
And then just a last one for you based on this is, Earl Thomas, has he just lost it? I mean, what is the insider scoop here that a potential Hall of Fame back-end defender who wants to play in Dallas with a Texas background is sitting at home? Why? Normally that would be the end of that for Dallas. What's going on with Earl Thomas, Peter?
Yeah, I think the Ravens tried to give him every break and really wanted to keep him. But Rich, what was really shocking to me about the Ravens? All right, usually it's the coaching staff or the front office. When you see a move like that made, when a potential Hall of Fame player gets fired at a position this excellent football team needs, you usually hear, grumblings in the front office or coach staff, whatever. Rich, the players did not want Earl Thomas. The players wanted this move to be made. Several in the player leadership wanted this move to be made. And so that's what you have to ask yourself now. If some players, at a position of great need, didn't want you, if you were late, and I mean, Mike Silver reported this, and I heard it's absolutely true, that he was very late one day because he stopped to get his car washed on the way to work, on the way into the Ravens. I mean, it's just what kind of person do you want? I'm saying, do you want that kind of person on your team? If it was a one-time incident, you shake your head, roll your eyes, and say, okay, you got to put up with some things with great players. But it wasn't a one-time thing. So when I hear that teams, for whatever reason, are not interested in Earl Thomas, I'm not surprised.
Peter, thanks for the time. Appreciate it. Great stuff as always. And let's chat again real soon. Thanks again, Peter.
All right. Hey, Rich, all the best to you. Thanks.
Bet. That's Peter King at Peter_King. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.